This episode of Man of Prestige is fought when a relationship breaks all the way down, right? That's one of the things that's a problem with the manosphere and the red pill message. It's never one person's fault. Why? Because that was a relationship that involved two people, right? So at the very minimum, you're responsible for what you attracted. But maybe it's not responsibility. Maybe it's just a thing. It's just a reality of life. You attracted that, right? So, like I said, you've forgotten the bad behavior. Remember the bad behavior on her part. You probably don't want a piece of that anymore, right? Remember that. Then if you remember that and you write that down somewhere, if you need to, then maybe it's easier to get over your ex, because you probably don't want that anyway. But if you did want that, at least you want to identify that to give yourself a sense of higher self-respect, that it wasn't just all your fault. Number one, low self-esteem. We're saying the same things in kind of different ways, but again, you have Man of Prestige. I want to give you 7 reasons. These are the reasons why you can't get over your ex. Okay, if you're looking to get over your ex, these are the 7 reasons why you're having a hard time getting over your ex. Let's dive right into it. Number 7, not engaged with your purpose and life mission. If you're not engaged with your purpose, I'm not talking about the bag. I'm not talking about chasing after money. That's a byproduct of proper purpose, right? If you're not engaged in your purpose and your life mission, it's going to be extremely hard. Okay? With purpose and patience, it becomes significantly easy to get over your ex. Okay? Purpose especially, because patience becomes a byproduct of being engaged with your purpose, right? It takes time, obviously, to get over a relationship that was probably meaningful for you. But like I just said, if you're engaged in purpose, you have less time for bullshit. So if you don't know what your purpose is, then you need to find your purpose. On this platform, I do have another video on how to find your purpose. Just type in "find your purpose, Man of Prestige." It should come up. If it doesn't come up, let me know in the comment area and I will create a lesson around that. Number 6, you're obsessed with social media. If you're obsessed with social media, obviously you're probably following each other, your ex, yourself, or you're still following her, or she hasn't gotten to the point where she blocked you yet. So if you're obsessed with social media, you'll be exposed to seeing her move about. If she's talking to a man, your brain will interpret that as somebody's blowing her back out right on the bed. That's just how the human mind works, especially when you're obsessed. Because again, we're talking about this because there's a good chance that you got dumped, right? So if you got dumped, that's why we're talking about this. If you were the dumper, we wouldn't be talking about this. Very highly unlikely that we will be talking about this if you dumped her, right? So you got dumped. So obviously, rejection breeds obsession. And so you can expand that obsession by 1000x when we're talking about being exposed to them on social media. Every time they posted something where it looks like they're smiling, your brain interprets that as another man is blowing her back out. And then you go into this spiral of anxiety and you're punishing yourself. Okay, so there's a good chance that you're obsessed with social media. So what should you do? Should you block her? Should you not unblock her? I'm just saying, let's go back to number 1. You're probably disengaged from your personal purpose, because I could see my ex and I'm not moved. I'm not moved at all. It has nothing to do with me, because there's literally 2 billion ladies out there that will happily take me, especially when I'm working on myself. Number 5, you lack self-respect. If you lack self-respect, there's a way that you move that it's just hard for you to get over an ex, right? But when you have self-respect, it's like, I dumped her too, at least in your mind, right? At least, like, she doesn't want me, I don't want her either. Right? That's basically how you're thinking, right? So if you lack self-respect, you're like sobbing, right? You're about to cry because you got dumped by just one human being. There's 2 billion other people out there. There's at least 500,000 out there. I just divided that by 4. That's all. Okay. So number 4, rejection breeds obsession. I said that earlier. So if you got dumped, yes, that's a good reason why it's maybe hard for you to get over your ex. But again, once you know what I just told you, it's just a fact of life. It's just how the human mind works. The awareness is 85 of the battle won. You're aware now that it's only because you got dumped. And there's a good chance that that relationship was toxic anyway. If you think backwards a little bit longer, maybe you really shouldn't be in that relationship. Have you thought about that, right? And if you really feel like you lost a good one, that's okay. Lesson learned, right? And there's a chance. The best way you increase your chances of attracting an ex back is, again, just know these things. Don't get obsessed over an ex. When you know this, then the effect of the obsession gets lowered significantly, just because you're aware that this is what's going on with your own mind. Number 3, you gave from an empty cup. Okay, you gave from an empty cup. You weren't taking care of self. Okay, you didn't put your own mask on first. You went into that situation by just giving, and forgetting to give to yourself. Listen, I preach giving, that you go to a relationship to give, period, right? But the first part of that give is to give to self. Okay, because if you pour from an empty cup, you're just human like the rest of us. You're going to suffer. Okay, so when she removed herself from your life, and now suddenly you feel like there's a vacuum, right? You feel like there's a vacuum. You feel like there's a word I'm looking for. There's a void. Yeah, there's a vacuum. There's a void, and if you're not able to give that to yourself, meaning filling the void and filling that vacuum, it's no wonder why you got dumped. So we got to work on that. So like I said, stop giving from an empty cup. Okay, even in your next relationship, you want to try not to be giving from an empty cup, but you did, and that's why it's probably hard for you to get over your ex right now. 2, like most, you've forgotten the bad behavior. I said that a little bit earlier. There were bad behaviors on your ex's part, and you've forgotten about it now because you got dumped, because rejection breeds obsession, right? But you got to think back, like there were things that you didn't like. That's why it broke. Like, it's never one person's fault when a relationship breaks all the way down, right? That's one of the things that's a problem with the manosphere and the red pill message. It's never one person's fault. Why? Because that was a relationship that involved 2 people, right? So at the very minimum, you're responsible for what you attracted. But maybe it's not responsibility. Maybe it's just a thing. It's just a reality of life. You attracted that, right? So, like I said, you've forgotten the bad behavior. Remember the bad behavior on her part. You probably don't want a piece of that anymore, right? Remember that. Then if you remember that and you write that down somewhere, if you need to, then maybe it's easier to get over your ex, because you probably don't want that anyway. But if you did want that, at least you want to identify that to give yourself a sense of higher self-respect, that it wasn't just all your fault. Number 1, low self-esteem. We're saying the same things in all kind of different ways, but again, you have a low sense of self, right? Listen, some arrogance is necessary. Some kind of ego is necessary. Healthy ego, right? A sense of pride about being yourself. There's something really good about you that attracted that person in the first place. If not, you wouldn't have attracted them in the first place. Don't forget that, right? And then leave room for other people to come into your world, and stop being obsessed over a person that dumped you. Trust me, you're not the only one that ever got dumped. Okay, you're not the only one. Just trust me on that. All right, and like I said, go over these things again and make sure you assess them. Write them out, assess them. Make sure that you've looked at this square in the face properly, and then after doing that, maybe about 3 times, it's probably should be easier for you to get over your ex. But trust me, it's pretty normal that you're not able to get over quick, because again, once a person has been a significant part of your life before, then it makes sense. All right, man of prestige.